It just doesn't like you being on two SSOs or something at a time?
You should drop out of the other one. Are you in now?
I'll go back to it.
So you can only be locked.
Good afternoon, everybody. If I can get the DRB members to get on camera, that'd be great.
Board Member Hedgepeth, you can turn on your camera. We can't see you yet.
All right, so I see 4 of us. Is that who we're expecting?
Board Member Wicks will be joining shortly, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, why don't we get going? Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the City of Santa Rosa Design Review Board's regular meeting on November 19th, 2020. Before we get into the agenda, I want to recognize why we're here in this format. Due to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Orders N-25-20 and N-29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act, and the order of the Health Officer of the County of Sonoma to shelter in place to minimize the spread of COVID-19, the Design Review Board will be participating via Zoom webinar. Members of the public can also join us via Zoom, YouTube, live stream, and are able to phone in with public comments. So why don't we go ahead and get a roll call, Patty?
Okay, let the record reflect that all board members are present except for Board Member Wicks, who will be joining very shortly.
Thank you very much. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes, and we have none submitted, so that is quick and easy.
One moment. I'm so sorry. I need to correct the roll call. Board Member Weigel is also absent today.
Okay, thank you, Patty. So approval of minutes, we have none submitted, so we can move on. I'm going to reorder numbers 3 and 4 on the agenda. I'm going to go ahead and take board business first and read the statement of purpose, and then we'll open up for general public comment. So board business, this is where we differentiate ourselves versus any other boards and commissions in the city of Santa Rosa. So we have our statement of purpose, which I will read. Zoning Code Chapter 20-52.0.0F, Project Review. The review authority shall consider the location, design, site plan configuration, and the overall effect of the proposed project upon surrounding properties in the city in general. Review shall be conducted by comparing the proposed project to the general plan, any applicable specific plan, applicable zoning code standards and requirements, consistency of the project within the city's design guidelines, architectural criteria for special areas, and other applicable city requirements, i.e. city policy statements and or development plans. So that's our board's purview, and under this general public comment period is where members of the public can address the board on items germane to that statement of purpose. There will be 2 other public comment periods, one for each agendized item. So if you're here to speak for those particular items, you will do so after their presentations. So with that, I will open up public comment for matters germane to this board, and each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes.
Chair Kincaid, we don't have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and give it a moment.
Okay, no hands are going up for public comment.
All right, great. Go ahead and close public comment. Head back to the agenda. Item number 5 is board member reports. Do we have any board member reports this evening? All right, no board member reports. Item number 6, department reports. Any department reports?
Good evening, Chair Kincaid, members of the board. It's nice to see you all. Just 2 quick items. Last Tuesday, the City Council approved the downtown station area specific plan. I think the board is well aware this has been an ongoing project for some time, and that Tuesday night's meeting actually was the culmination of nearly 2 years of work. So we hope that we see a lot of successful development come because of it, and so we'll look forward to seeing what happens in the future. So thank you all for your input and support on that project as well. And then just one quick item reminder, I think you're all aware we have a joint meeting coming up next week. So for those of you that can attend, look forward to seeing you then. And that's it for department reports.
Thank you, Bill. Item number 7 is statements of abstention by board members. Any board members needing to abstain from items on today's agenda? All right. Full court press. We're moving through quickly. Scheduled items. Item number 8, specifically item number 8.1. This is a public hearing for preliminary design review, College Creek Apartments at 2150 West College Avenue, file number DR19-011. And we have interim senior planner Ross to give us a staff presentation, and we'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll move on to public comment and back to the board. So Planner Ross, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chair Kincaid, members of the board. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, but just for anyone watching, I'm Adam Ross, project planner with the City of Santa Rosa, and I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen once I start presenting. Okay, do you see that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So this is the College Creek Apartments, file number DR20-001. The address is 2150 West College Avenue. Again, Adam Ross with the City of Santa Rosa Planning and Economic Development Department. The project is a 164-unit, fully affordable multi-housing family project, which ranges for units from very low to moderate income residents. The total acreage of the site is 7.49 acres with 5.79 of net developable acres. Some of the on-site amenities include a pool, community room, outdoor space, and tot lot. You see a rendering of what the site looks like. This would be what from the view from West College Avenue would be. The unit breakdown is 64 units are 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 58 units are 2 bedroom and 2 bath, and 42 units are 3 bedroom and 2 bath. This project also provides 76 units of very low income, which is 7.2% of the Regional Housing Needs Assessment in the city's Housing Action Plan, and 84 units, which is 14% of that same goal. This is a kind of a general location of where the project site is. The star on the project itself is in the northwest quadrant of the city, and the star indicates the general location. Here's a aerial image of the site with how it would look from above a little bit. As you can see, north and west, you have some existing residential communities. To the right, you have Cal Fire Training Center. There's the Transit Center on the corner of Marlowe and College, and the Finley Community Center, as well as some city-owned property and locations. So the project was had a neighborhood meeting on September 18th, 2019, and a concept design. The concept item came to the DRB on September 19th, 2019. On February 24th, the formal application was submitted to the Planning and Economic Development Department. On July 16th, the application was deemed complete. The general plan for this site is medium high density residential, which allows 18 to 30 units per acre. This project complies with that. It's 29 units per acre. So part of the analysis also includes the Creekside master plan. Because this project fronts the College Creek Reach 1. It's a modified natural creek, approximately 5,735 linear feet. There's an existing gravel trail on the property side, the north side of the creek. The access is actually, you have to go through this parking lot to get onto the trail currently. Again, it's unpaved, but it is a gravel pathway. I'll get into a bit of the public improvements in the next few slides. The zoning is R3, R330 specifically, which matches the general plan land use designation, which allows up to 30 units per acre. The environmental review, it's a lot of text, so I'm just going to go through it slowly. 15183 states that projects which are consistent with the development density established by zoning, community plan, or general plan policies for which an EIR was certified shall not require additional environmental review, except as might be necessary to examine whether there are project-specific significant effects which are peculiar to the project or its site. In this case, a checklist, a 15183 checklist, was submitted with the project by First Carbon Solutions with the application, and the draft provided as an attachment was August 25th, 2020. It included corresponding studies and analyses to support the project's compliance. And with that, the project has been found to be consistent with the Santa Rosa General Plan and complies with all zoning code requirements. Review of the project has revealed no significant environmental impacts which are peculiar to the parcel or to the project and which were not addressed in the General Plan EIR. Nor is there any new information that shows that any environmental impacts will be more significant than as described in the EIR. So some of the, the Design Review Board's comments from the concept meeting are in the next two slides. So it's consider pool location to be oriented to reduce shadows in the pool area, explore plantings and benches at the pool area, explore options to lower parapet height. At next submittal, show visual effect from different vantage points, explore building massing and orientation to create open space, green space, and placemaking, explore color variety and boldness, explore more board and batten siding, consider parking reduction for more open space and orchard parking where feasible. Consider car charging stations, consult design guidelines 3.2.1.f.1 regarding common open space and grass percentage. Consider a dog parking garden, try for multiple purposes for each outdoor amenity, consider common space in lieu of a pool, give accessory structures the same character as the main buildings, and the trash enclosures may require roofs, provide pedestrian access to trash enclosures, add more bicycle parking at western edge, provide access to creek trail and tie the project into the creek, maximize bioretention to filter water draining to the creek and maximize connection to open space. So here's a site plan of the site. Site plan of the site. As you can see, there's two access points off of West College Avenue. There's adequate circulation throughout and some more parking here. Here's a kind of a outdoor amenity area. Here's the pool area. The community center is located in this rear building. One thing I wanted to point out was that building A and B in the front are 3 stories, which faces West College Avenue, and the 4-story structure is behind, not facing College Avenue. That was to lessen the impact to the surrounding neighbors and be a bit more compliant with the overall building heights surrounding this location. This kind of dotted line or kind of filled in line right here shows the future connection to the existing trail along the creek. So it's no longer going to be accessed specifically via the parking lot. So they're building connectivity for anyone using the site to connect to College Avenue. So this is the part of the public improvements which will connect the existing trail to College Avenue. Here's a 3D rendering of kind of what it looks like on site with these buildings. Again, here's College Avenue. Back in this location is the creek and the 4-story building with the internal amenities. And so these are small elevations, but I'm going to leave most of that up to the applicant team to go over with you in their presentation. But here's some of the elevations. This would be the 3-story building facing College Avenue. You can see some architectural features of these awnings and kind of like a stepped frontage that kind of gives some breakup of the massing as well, and multiple material types. Here's the 4-story building in the back, which kind of surrounds the amenities. And so it's continuing the same theme. Some more elevations, and as you can see down here, it just kind of gives you the key plan of what building this is with the elevations represented. Some of the materials, stucco finish, you see some siding and some examples of the awnings that would hang over the doors for the internal entryway for the multifamily units. These are the design guidelines. I'm not going to read them all, but these are some of them. Just housing that it asks that you develop housing, multifamily housing that's compatible with the existing surrounding homes and other structures and provides superior design. Encourages multifamily projects which are safe to contribute to safer neighborhoods and support police and fire department efforts to promote public safety. So the access is adequate. It has plenty of circulation around the site. The site has that 3-story element, and then the 4-story is kind of out of direct sight from the existing neighborhood. And it also integrates the multifamily project with the pedestrian bicycle circulation system with the creek trail, and there's also one more public improvement that I'll just get into in the next couple slides that also highlights that. So the restriping, so the public improvements are kind of on and off site. As I mentioned, the connection from that creek trail to College Avenue. It also includes restriping of West College Avenue to accommodate a 5-foot wide east and west bound bike lanes. So those are class 2. That's like the striped bike lanes on the east and west directions of the street. A 12-foot wide travel lanes for both east and west, and a 10-foot wide 2-way left turn lane. So that's kind of like that middle lane that's only used for turning, not for through traffic. And again, the new access to the gravel trail. And the addition of a rectangular rapid beacon crosswalk at the Navarro and College Avenue intersection. So it's not a full stop. A traffic signal was not warranted with the traffic study, but a crosswalk with that kind of flashing light beacon was warranted and is a condition as part of this project. The existing sidewalk, curb, gutter, and planter strip are to remain, so the street does not need to be widened. The project will require new street trees as applicable. Some of the issues, and this was more of internal discussions, was what that creek looked like. There's certain easements on the site for that creek. It's maintained by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. They will maintain access. There will be easements that that allow, use for the city and the maintenance of the trail by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And that is conditioned into the project as well. So those have all been worked out. And then just on the right is kind of what that looks like. It's a utility access easement. And more of that information is found in the Exhibit A. Some of the public comments, most public comments, except for two, were at the beginning of the project phase. So the preliminary, more on the preliminary and the project notice of application. Those concerns are for traffic, parking, the affordability, and density. And in response to that, the W-Trans drafted the traffic impact analysis, where they found that the restriping of West College Avenue from west of Putney Drive to Stony Point Road was required, and an enhanced rapid beacon crosswalk at Navarro Street and West College Avenue. There were no further traffic mitigations of major issues, so you'll get the typical, maintain line of sight for proper sighting entering and exiting the site, which is within the city code as it is. The required parking is 264 units, and the project is providing 272 units. So with that, the Planning and Economic Development Department recommends that the Design Review Board approve by resolution the preliminary design review for the College Creek Apartments, a 164-unit multifamily affordable housing development, and delegate final design review to staff. And that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant has a comprehensive presentation to follow, and I'm obviously available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Planner Ross. Let's go ahead and take questions for staff now, and then we can move on to the applicant presentation. Are there any questions for staff? All right, seeing none. The only clarification point I wanted to make is that when I read the agenda, I believe I said that it was DR19-011, and it looks like your presentation and all of the other documents are DR20-011. So I'm assuming the DR20-011 is the correct application number.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to the applicant presentation, please.
I'm going to share my screen and have that ready, and then you have Royce Patch and Gene Kapolchek and Dennis Dalby, among others, for the applicant team.
Great. And as the applicant team comes on and speaks, if you can identify yourself and your relation to the project, that would be fantastic. And welcome.
Thank you. So Adam, are you taking care of the PowerPoint? No?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I was on mute. Give me 1 second. I'll have that open.
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
Oh, wait.
Okay, Royce, whenever you're ready, and just let me know when you need to change the slide.
I will. Thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, for your presentation and for all of the efforts that you've in working with us and getting us through to this place. We're excited to be presenting. So I want to say good evening to Chair Kincaid and the members of the board. I'm Royce Patch. I'm with USA Properties, the applicant and the future owner, builder, and manager for College Creek Apartments. We have many team members available tonight, but from the design team, we have Ron Metzger with LPAS Architecture, Dennis Dalby from Civil Design Consultants, and Rick Hendricks from Integra Landscape, to address questions. Go ahead and change the slide. There we go. So just a quick intro, USA Properties is coming up on our 40th year. We're a fully integrated company, cradle to grave. So we acquire the properties, develop, we work with the financing, construction, we own them, and we manage all of our projects. We currently have 6 projects here in Santa Rosa, and we hope that this will be our 7th. Next slide. We work with Life Steps, our social service provider, on all of our communities. Each community is staffed with social service professionals who work one-on-one with our on-site management and our residents. They develop unique programs as needed for each of the communities. Services can include educational classes, after-school programs, mediation services, and employment coaching. Okay, next slide. Life Steps also partners with USA on our charitable program, the J.B. Brown Fund. The program has grown year over year, and it's supported by not only employees of USA, but also residents, as well as some very generous contributions from our business and financial partners. And through 2019, the J.B. Brown Fund has raised more than $1.5 million in grants, with 100% of the funds raised going to our programs. And those can include scholarships for both college, vocational trade schools, as well as participation in youth sports programs. We also provide financial assistance to residents in crisis, and that includes financial literacy, which will help our residents better prepare for the future. Next slide. We've already had a pretty good introduction of the project, so we'll just glance here for a moment, and we could go ahead and move on. And as a staff reference, we came to the Design Review Board back in September 2019. We've taken a lot of care to respond to the comments that we received from the board, as well as community outreach and guidance from city staff. We feel that we have addressed the concerns and have brought forward a project that you will be welcoming, and we're happy to become part of the community. Next slide. So from here, I'm going to turn this over to Ron Metzger of LPAS for the design presentation. Our project team is standing by to support and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Royce. I guess you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Well, we're very happy to be here. We've got a lot of great feedback at our last meeting with you, and we've, I think, done a pretty good job incorporating that feedback, as Ross had mentioned previously. So what you see in front of you is a little bit of a bird's eye view looking down towards the main Paseo opposite Navarro Street, where the buildings, three-story buildings, face West College Avenue, and we have this Paseo with some trellises that lead you into the project to the main entrance at the four-story building. So we can go to next. So on the site plan, as was mentioned, we have the two entrances far apart from each other from the intersection, with a pedestrian connection at Navarro that leads you to that pedestrian Paseo to the main building. This on-site circulation is somewhat similar to what was there before, in terms of having a loop of parking around the perimeter, and then open space in the middle. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in detail, but since our last meeting, what we have done is we've increased the amount of open space that we are providing by increasing the size of the central courtyard surrounded by the four-story building. Also, the main Paseo that connects that building to West College Avenue, and have activated that Paseo with other amenities in the three-story buildings. We've also added additional features to cater to multiple age groups on the site, with sport court and other elements that weren't on the site previously. We also provided direct access to the bike trail, which we did not have previously. So we can go to next. So as you saw before, we have smaller buildings focused down to 3 stories at the street, and then the 4-story building towards the back. And every building then breaks down in scale to smaller components to reflect the individual rhythm and scale of each individual unit. We can go to the next. So this is the rendering that we started with. And you can see the 2019 concept. It is very similar. One of the big changes that occurred between the last time we met with you and today is we had 168 units previously. Right now we have 164. And that was the result of looking at a different market. This project is catering to families. We have a higher percentage of 3-bedroom units than we had before, both 3 and 2-bedroom. And so we had to look at how we might integrate those into the community and still create the overall character and feel that we were looking for. So what you see with these buildings is, at 3 and 4-story is a kind of a layered approach with different colors and textures. We have a deeper warm gray color at the base to anchor the building into the site. And we wanted to keep the building somewhat neutral to kind of accentuate the landscape. And then we have a accent color of a green to identify entrances and accent corners. We also increased the amount of board and batten siding to give a kind of a rich texture that plays well with the smoother plaster finishes that you have in other parts of the building. And then we played with the height of those plaster bands at 1 story for the base, coming up to 2 stories at the balconies. And then we've integrated canopies to create more of a little bit more detail at the top. So we can go to the next slide. This shows it at street level, and you can get a much better sense of what that feels like in terms of the overall rhythm of the individual unit, how we've brought the scale from the corners with this more articulated texture and accent colors to a 2-story focal point at the entrances, and then down to 1 story at the base, trellises at the entry to give them more impact, larger windows at the entry, again, to help identify those areas, and accent colors. And so even though these are 3-story buildings and there's several units in those buildings, you get to perceive the exact rhythm of the corner units, the next unit down. So each unit, as it wraps around the street and around the site, is clearly identified. So we can go to the next. I think although the perspectives show it a little bit better, this shows kind of the approach that we took. Again, trying to create a balance of material and color with the deeper base at the bottom, have that as a medium tone coming up to the 2nd floor, and then letting the building be lighter and have more texture as it raises up. We also, in some cases, we had very high parapets before. Maybe we got a little out of control. What we've tried to do here is simplify that and have a more refined approach to the building. And where we have stepped the parapet up, we've articulated that with a more enhanced cornice line. So we can go to the next one. So this is a plan of those 3-story buildings. On the ground floor, we have entrances both facing the parking lot and the street, so residents can come and go in either direction. At the corners facing that paseo, we have our bike parking and amenity space for each building. Again, so that residents can use those amenities both inside and outside at those areas. You can see all of our mechanical equipment is screened and up on the roof, and we have ample space to do our solar offsets for these buildings up on the roof. Go to the next. So this shows this in section that, in fact, we are screening the mechanical equipment and solar panels that would be provided. And it starts to show the parapets that we have, which are more reasonable in height. So we go to the next. So as we get to the 4-story building, it follows the same rhythm that we saw in the front buildings. We've got a sophisticated palette of warm earth tones, of a deeper gray color at the base to a medium color coming up to the 2nd floor at entry, sometimes up to the 3rd floor. Again, we don't want to just create a horizontal stripe across the building. We want your eye to go up and down, and again, to break down the mass and accentuate the individual unit. At places where we want your eye to focus, we've added the accent color, so at the entrances and at key corners. And then we have greater articulation here at the entrance with the board and batten siding and the metal canopies at the top. We go to the next. Again, this shows it in more detail where we've got the base continuing across, but that is broken by these balconies coming up to the second floor, the accent color here at the entrance, and then these three at the second floor, then going up to the third floor. And then sometimes we've broken this cream color with a gray color where we felt that made sense to do so. We've done the same thing on the sides where we've got our side entrances. We've used the accent color coming across at the 2-story height and then jumping up to the 3-story height for additional variety in the building. So again, each of these units has their own private outdoor space balcony, and it's clearly identified and kind of creates a rhythm that breaks up the overall mass. We go to next. And this is more of the same. These buildings are 4-sided buildings. There's really no back. The same level of detail is continued all the way from the street-facing elevations along West College Avenue to those facing the creek in the back. We go to the next. So these are the 4-story buildings, and we'll see it in more detail here coming up. The amenity is opposite, the main amenity is opposite the Paseo coming off of West College Avenue, and then that helps activate the courtyard. But we also have amenities in the knuckles where we may have bike parking and that sort of thing. And then we've tucked the utility spaces kind of off to the side in the back there. We can go to the next. So the most of the floors stack, and then you can see again all on the roof we will have all of our mechanical condensers, and we have room for solar offsets on the roof as well. And then I think the next one, this just shows the building in section, and we can go to the next. So this is the interior amenity, and what's nice about this project, it is highly amenitized. When you come in the entry lobby, you'll have the leasing area right off to your left as you walk in. To the right is a fitness center with views out to the front. And then as you come through the building, there'll be the main club room that has an indoor kitchen. It has room for a homework space. It's kind of the main social hub of the community. And then there's restrooms that serve both the interior function of the building and then also for the pool and outdoor courtyard. We can go to the next. So this shows the colored site plan. And again, it starts to show the open space more clearly. We've amenitized, and I think the next slide actually shows this in more detail, some of the open space. Yeah, the main courtyard, we're really kind of focused previously on just very few things. And so what we did is we pulled the south elevation of the building back and we pushed the pool more to the east. So the building does not shade the pool at all. And so when you are in the clubhouse, you'll be able to have views out towards the pool, and there's an outdoor living space between you and the pool to let that amenity space kind of flow outside. We also have a play area for young children, and we have this lawn area for all ages, really. And then the other thing we added is out at the kind of the panhandle between the bike trail and creek and parking is we've created a small sport court for other age group people that might be living here in the community. And as was mentioned, we have also made a direct connection to the bike trail, which we feel is a great amenity, not just for the overall community, but for residents that will be living here. So we can go next. So I think this is the timeline of what we expect to see going forward. Assuming we can obtain entitlements this is the timeline that we will be looking at starting our construction drawings this month, and then submitting for plan check in the spring, and then starting construction fall of 2021 with units starting to be delivered, or at least marketing in 2022. And that is our presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Royce and Ron. Great presentation, very thorough, and looking like a great project. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open up for public comment before we take questions. That way we can incorporate any public questions into our questioning of the applicant. So with that, let's go ahead and open up for public comment on the College Creek Apartments, item number 8.1. Any speakers wishing to speak will have 3 minutes.
Chair Kincaid.
Yes.
Sure. Sorry, I received 2 late correspondence, which were letters in support of the project, and I'd be happy to read those into the record.
That'd be fantastic. Okay. Sure.
So the first one is from Generation Housing. Oh, sorry. Oh,
sorry about that.
That's good. So the first one is from Generation Housing, and it reads, after a thorough analysis driven by our project endorsement criteria, Generation Housing strongly endorses the College Creek Apartments infill development proposed at 2150 West College Avenue. The College Creek infill development proposed by USA Properties Fund in conjunction with the County of Sonoma would provide a new affordable housing option for local residents at 30 to 120% area median income. The College Creek development proposes 2 3-story walk-ups and 1 4-story elevator-served building comprised of 164 residential apartment units and a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom homes. Sited on a major arterial corridor and just 400 feet from the Santa Rosa City Bus West Side Transfer Center, the abundance of transportation options creates ideal conditions for this housing development. Additionally, the College Creek developer is pursuing an opportunity to close the gap in the Santa Rosa Creek Trail, connecting the southern portion of the property and West College Avenue. This will provide neighbors well beyond the scope of the proposed development with safer options for pedestrian and bicycle travel. The College Creek Apartments project pursues a statewide goal of repurposing underutilized public lands to develop 100% affordable housing. The project's urban design maximizes the utility of the site despite an irregular shape and buffers prospective residents from a mix of uses in the immediate vicinity. Amenities proposed for the project include on-site community center, swimming pool, gym, and playground. We urge you to support this project and help pursue an opportunity to create affordable housing in Santa Rosa. Respectively, Jen Close, Executive Director, Generation Housing. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, so the next one, which was submitted by California Apartment Association, I believe this was sent to the board, but it was also sent to me as a late correspondence. So this is in regards to the College Creek Apartments proposal support. Dear Chair Kincaid and members of the Santa Rosa Design Review Board, I am writing in support of the College Creek multifamily housing project located at 2150 West College Avenue. As you know, our region continues to face an ongoing housing crisis that requires action on the part of all local governments to make meaningful progress in addressing the significant shortage of housing, not only in the city of Santa Rosa, but throughout Sonoma County and the North Bay. If approved, this project will create 164 additional housing units and provide a much needed boost to the local housing supply. Furthermore, this project realizes a years-long vision of developing housing at the former Sonoma County Water Agency site and is consistent with the city's general plan, goals, and policies. The proposed project is well-designed and will help Santa Rosa fulfill its local, regional, and statewide goal of increasing the availability of transit-oriented infill housing. Additionally, this project brings the city one step closer to meeting its local regional housing needs allocation as required by the state of California. The need for housing is undeniable, and I hope you will keep the need for increased housing stock in mind as you consider the design of the project and associated entitlements to make this project a reality. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Alex Calfin, Vice President of Public Affairs, California Apartments Association, North Bay. And that concludes those two public comments.
Thank you, Planner Ross. And I should have called this the public hearing as opposed to public comment. So this is the public portion of the public hearing. In that vein, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak at this time, Patty?
We do. We have Clyde Underwood. And Mr. Underwood, I have unmuted you.
Yes, hi. I live at 1103 Navarro, and I'm curious about the timing and the sequence of the restriping of West College. That's a pretty major change to the existing traffic pattern. So I would think that the sooner that striping is done, the better. I would hate to see it arrive late and people not get a chance to get used to it.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. We will get some timing answered from staff as to sequencing, and I think you bring up a good point.
Okay, next we have Luke Lindenbush. And Mr. Lindenbush, you are unmuted.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Chair Kincaid and members of the Design Review Board. My name is Luke Lindenbush. I'm Project and Policy Coordinator with Generation Housing, and we're a independent nonprofit advocacy organization that advocates for the supply, affordability, and diversity of housing in Sonoma County. I would say the project before you, 2150 West College Avenue, College Creek Apartments, fulfills all three of these goals, and I won't add too much beyond our letter submitted in public comment as an organization, but I will stress a couple of really exciting aspects of this proposal. First off, as was previously mentioned, this is one of those projects at 30 to 120% area median income that will help the city of Santa Rosa meet its regional housing needs allocation obligations. But in addition to that, and the housing benefit of it, the transportation benefits of being sited on West College Avenue, 400 feet from a major bus station, and the importance of connecting the Santa Rosa Creek Trail to West College Avenue really can't be understated. I think it'll be of a huge benefit to the rest of the community, not just residents of this site, pedestrians and cyclists to have more options to get around this part of town than using Stony Point Road and other very congested arterials that aren't necessarily conducive to pedestrian and bicycle travel. So we really commend the applicant for taking an irregularly shaped site and citing a wide variety of amenities on the site for a quality 100% affordable housing project that we think is exactly what Santa Rosa needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lindenbush.
Okay, next we have Veronica, and Veronica, you're unmuted. And Veronica, you've been unmuted, but if you don't want to speak, if you can let us know. And if you're on a phone, I believe you press *6 to speak.
Hi, Veronica. This is one of the hosts. You had your hand raised. We have already unmuted you. So if you start speaking, we should be able to hear you. It looks like you have a microphone attached. If you can test out that for us. because at this time we cannot hear you.
Okay, we can give Veronica a few minutes to maybe work on some technical issues. We have another caller, Cleet, C-L-E-E-T, and you are unmuted. And caller named Cleet, you are unmuted. You can unmute your microphone anytime.
Do you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Thank you. I've attended at least 4 meetings prior over the last 2 years regarding this project. Items that were brought up by the public, by the neighbors to this project, do not seem to be addressed. The traffic on West College, the congestion that this building will cause, the parking for the facility not being enough and will impact the surrounding neighbors, the infrastructure that will be required for the project and therefore cause disruption during construction, i.e. tearing up West College Avenue to put in bigger utility lines, etc. Does anybody wish to address any of these items, or are we just going to go ahead and build a building with a dogleg West College Avenue and allow people to park in the surrounding neighborhood? That's my main concern. And I don't think that it's been addressed here. It certainly hasn't been addressed in prior meetings. And if the city feels that they can go ahead and allow this project to go forth without first addressing these issues, that is a very, very large mistake. You're taking a very set, I've lived in my home here about 7 houses down on Navarro Street for 32 years. And this area has built up. What I see with the lower moderate income housing that you're proposing is to decrease that value that is built up in this neighborhood. So I appreciate the fact that you had a lot of people say that this is just what Santa Rosa needs. Well, maybe it is what Santa Rosa needs. What are you going to do with what the rest of Santa Rosa that already has it needs? I relinquish the rest of my time.
Thank you for your participation, Cleet. Much appreciated.
Chair Kincaid, I don't see any more raised hands. And it looks like we lost Veronica, so.
All right, we'll give it another moment. I know Planner Ross read into record items received, written correspondence. Do we have any other emails or voicemails to take into public comment?
Switch my beer for one.
None from planning staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, public comment period for item number 8.1.
Can't hear you.
And what's that? Okay, go ahead and close public comment for item 8.1. Bring it back to the board for questions of the applicant. So we can go ahead and start with board member Sharon. Questions for the applicant?
Thank you, Chair Kincaid. And thank you, Planner Ross. It was a pleasure to hear your presentations, and thank you, applicants, for a great presentation and for bringing back a good evolution of the project for us. Great to see it. I have one main question. It does involve the access to the creek. I appreciate how you've put in the direct access at the northern end of the property near the sport court and the parking up there and the trash enclosures. Wondering why, if there was any thinking about, I don't see any, and maybe I've missed it, but I don't think I have access along the rest of the site, along the long diagonal swath, and then specifically down in the southern portion and the western portion of the site.
Hi, this is Royce with USA Properties.
Hi.
We have provided one access point up at the bend there. And that part of the reason why there aren't more access points has to do with accessibility and meeting the ADA requirements, the switchbacks that would be required. So that is the most obvious place to create a connection that is accessible to everyone.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wondered if it was something to do with that or to do with access to with the creek actually just getting access to, but definitely accessibility is a big concern. And I just wanted to hear that it was thought through. So it was one of the things
yes.
we brought up. So yeah, thank you for addressing that. Thanks very much. And that'll do it for my questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Board Member Sharon. Board Member Cordenbrock, questions for the applicant?
Can you hear me? Great. Yeah, a quick question. Great presentation and a nice evolution, as Adam had mentioned as well. I remember seeing this, and I remember the feedback, and I think you've done a good job in incorporating and listening a lot, and listening to a lot of that feedback. So really appreciate that. Had the same question as Board Member Sharon about the access. And so I'm glad someone else had kind of seen that, and maybe there's opportunities elsewhere. But let's see, one question I did have is, do you have any, seeing as this will be the 7th project in the city or in the area, do you have any ridership or data about who is taking and percentage of people taking mass transit or using alternatives to automobiles?
We don't have any specific data on our current occupancy. No, we have a mix of senior communities and as well as 3 or 4 family communities, but I don't have any specific information on their public transit.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just curious with some of the questions that are coming from the public in terms of parking capacity and overflow and things like that, just to see if there's anything maybe your management team is seeing in other parts of the city that may help put that question, or have that question be kind of put to rest or ease that. I think would be helpful to maybe share with staff eventually for public consumption, I guess. Other questions? Let's see. I think those are all my questions for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cordenbrock. Questions for the applicant, Board Member Wicks.
Okay, unmuted. And Chairman Kincaid, sorry for being a tad bit late this evening. Trash enclosure number 2, its location away from the building. I like that a lot. Trash enclosure number 1 is next to the building. I'd just like to hear from the applicant the rationale for trash enclosure placement number 1. Did you look at a different alternative location possibly?
This is Ron Metzger. I can talk a little bit about that. When you look at the site plan, we have our trash room in the building, the 4-story building. We have trash chutes in that corner, and the trash room is there. And so both residents at the ground floor and residents on floors above will deposit their trash at that area. And then we have doors that come out. And so the feeling was management would bring them out of the building and into this area for pickup. So really, residents generally are not going into this trash enclosure. The trash would be taken out of the building and brought out here for pickup, and then brought back in. The bins would be brought back into the building.
Great, thank you. That's good information to know, and helps me accept its current location. I'm also curious. Board member Sharon Cordenbrock had the same question I had about pathway accessibility, or general access to it, and then the answer's been that accessibility was the issue. And I'm just wondering if every pathway has to be accessible. I know there's exceptions for exiting a building or accessing a building from an architectural standpoint. Just makes sense that you'd be able to do another access point with staircase if you're still providing an accessible route on the site. I guess that's more of a comment for later on. I just would sorry for giving you a preview of my spin on that, but I'd encourage you to look at accessibility to that pathway from both an ADA standpoint and a practical standpoint. So,
okay.
We could, yeah, this is Royce with USA. We could certainly look at that at other locations. We could have our engineers and architects look at that.
Thank you, Board Member Wicks. Vice Chair Hedgepeth, questions for the applicant.
Thank you, Chair Kincaid. Yes, excellent presentation, and I appreciate the evolution as well. I know some members of the public spoke, and looking at this particular facility, I can see that you've exceeded parking requirements. I know the board has a license to look at reductions, but as you manage each USA property, you have kind of a wonderful cradle to grave situation dynamically. You have family apartments, you have other apartments where people drive less. As you look at car ownership here, there's a lot of software programs. Thinking about Chair Member Cordenbrock, there's a new software app called Get Around, and it's a car app where you can own a car and you can pay for its monthly payments by having other people lease it. It's happening in San Francisco. I'm not necessarily advocating this. I'm just saying the dynamic of car use and various people of various age groups, perhaps thinking of ways to utilize their car when it's not being used. But I think my main question here is your stewardship in your tenants and the amount of cars they buy, the amount of vehicles that show up on the site. You have specific programs to monitor your population of vehicles, car keys on site. Is there anything you'd like to elaborate on there?
This is Royce. I'd like to introduce, if I may, Tammy Pedroia, who's from our Property Management Division. Tammy, could you help with this question? I hope.
There she is. I found her. Okay, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect, thank you. So what we would obviously do is definitely market this property with one vehicle per household. Normally we will market our properties with 2 vehicles per household. So during the application process, that would be one of the things that we would bring up during the application process with the one vehicle per household. How we monitor our vehicles on our properties is we use a permit system. So each household is given a permit that they put into their vehicles, which is monitored by not only our on-site, but also our courtesy patrol system. So that is how we're able to determine which vehicles belong on the property and which do not.
Just thank you for that. One add is, I know I've been associated with projects where the public street right away can sometimes be populated with vehicles where people want to jump in their car in a convenient location, zip away to work. You have on-site security monitoring, so your frontage on College will also be under the purview of your security staff as well for car use.
Well, we have a courtesy service that comes through and does drive-throughs on our properties in the evenings after hours. And that's how they would monitor that after hours. But during the day, our on-site would be able to monitor the parking situation during their normal office hours. We do also have one individual that would be living on-site, which is employed with USA, and they also do walk the property and monitor the property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hedgepeth. I had a couple of questions, and then also one of or two of the public comments were unaddressed. So we'll start with the public comments. The West College Avenue restriping, is that done at the beginning of the project, or directly after infrastructure is put in, or at the end of the project before final is given? A little flavor to that, Planner Ross?
Yeah, I spoke with Engineering Development Services just a minute ago. So what they said was for a miscellaneous project such as this, which is they define as it's not a subdivision, so there's no new tentative map involved. All the improvements shown on the public improvement plans are typically required to be installed prior to the setting of the domestic water meter. And sometimes a delay can be given so that it's prior to the first occupancy request. So there's that as well. There's also a requirement with the city for staging of construction. So when you have, a burden on the public streets, that has to be a plan has to be reviewed and approved by the city building and engineering division for that. I also wanted to kind of touch up on a few other items. So I have it written down. I'm sorry. So, and just about the parking, the site in the staff report, it's noted and in the presentation that the site itself has an excess parking requirement. It's 8 spaces, but there's no special parking count or reduction given in this project, in this case for the project. So it's defined in table 3-4 of the city's parking ordinance, which requires 1 space for each 1-bedroom, each studio or 1-bedroom unit, and 2 spaces for every unit with 2 or more bedrooms. So based on the unit count, the site is required to provide 264 spaces, while in this case 272 spaces are provided. That's so that's within code, and there's no special circumstances given. And then I think that was it. But if you have any that I didn't quite touch up on, please let me know.
I think the only other question, you touched a little bit on it, was infrastructure improvements in the street, and I think you were getting at that requires an encroachment permit from the city of Santa Rosa, which would come along with a traffic control plan for any construction in that public area. And while it may cause some congestion, it will be slow and safe congestion. And it may be a disruption, but I suspect that it will be as least of a disruption as possible, given my experience as a general contractor obtaining encroachment permits.
I think you said it better than I could have. So I appreciate that. And that was correct. And then just a little bit about the creek access. The project was reviewed how it was by obviously city staff, but Sonoma Water Agency, Water Advisory Committee, and the city's bike and pedestrian staff. So there was just a little bit more of info in the review and analysis of this project that access to the creek was reviewed by those other divisions, both county and city.
Great, thank you, Planner Ross. So a couple questions for the applicant from my perspective. I saw pool fencing detailed out as well as the trash enclosure, so thank you for that. I did not see fencing detailed for the sport court area. I saw mention that it would have some sort of fencing to keep the sports balls from traveling elsewhere. I'm just wondering if that is intended to match the pool fencing or the perimeter lot fencing.
I'm sorry, Royce from USA. Yes, it's my understanding that we're going to be using the same fencing as we're using at the pool. And I can let someone else jump in if I'm mistaken on that, but that's my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And then as to the sport court area, I'm wondering if there was any, I know there's quite a few trees and I saw some benches placed there, but I was wondering if there was any consideration to put something a little bit more permanent of a structure there to provide kind of shading and areas for spectators to hang out or people waiting to get the next pickup game.
Oh, we could certainly look at that. It's a good idea.
All right. Those are all my questions, and I think we touched on all the questions that we have from the public. So now we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for a motion and a second, and then we can get into comments and friendly amendments. So if there's a board member willing to make a motion on this preliminary design review application public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion approving preliminary design review for the College Creek Apartments, waive the reading of the text, and delegate final to staff.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hedgepeth and Board Member Sharon. So we've got a motion and a second to adopt preliminary design review for the College Creek Apartments, file number DR 20-011. Let's start with comments and friendly amendments. Board Member Sharon, you want to kick us off there?
Sure can. Just a follow-up to Planner Ross about the creek access. All of those entities reviewed the creek access. I know this didn't come before Waterways Advisory Committee, but or yet, but everyone did review it. But it's interesting that the idea of further access was never floated or brought up, or if it was, it seems that it was put aside for a very specific reason. And I wonder if you can shed any light on that.
Yeah, so I apologize. I think I misspoke about it going to the Waterways Advisory Committee. There's an exemption for projects for channelized waterways that are controlled by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And so that was this case. So I guess in the response that it was reviewed is that it just has not come up in that review of those other review authorities, I should say. So with the Regional Water Quality Control Board and the bicycle pedestrian master plan staff, that access was never specifically called out or asked for. So, but obviously you are now and have some concerns for it. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I just thought it would interesting that it that if it had been brought up and then set aside that it was for a very specific reason, but if it just hadn't been brought up, then that's okay too, because we're bringing it up now, at least to think about it. Yeah, I think that just to go along with that train of thoughts, I think having some way to either create a loop or to allow the access from the southern portion of Building C. I know that there's the grade change there and other access issues, but you mentioned that the applicants that you're willing to look at that, and we would definitely appreciate that, or at least I would appreciate that, to examine to see if it's feasible. So I think having, even if it's not an accessible pathway there, some sort of stair situation to create some kind of loop. It open things up and create less of a, I think it would actually activate that bottom corner of the site a little bit more too. Yes, I think, let's see, the good things, the evolution is really great. I appreciate your incorporation of our comments from a little over a year ago. I looked back at my notes and saw in Adam's presentation our thoughts that we brought up then, and I do feel that you guys have taken what we brought and really incorporated what we had. I think the sport court is a great addition over there. It provides really a nice amenity for older youth to actually have a place on the site. And I think that your rethinking of the courtyard is definitely thoughtfully done. And as far as aesthetically for the project, I appreciated how it before how it fit into the site and how it's got that depth of field to the site, and it recessed back into it. It didn't really fully announce itself onto the college corridor there. I think it's nestled in pretty well. You're utilizing the existing tree species, the rich tree species that are there, and then adding to that as well. I do appreciate the addition of the alley. I think it's a very sensitively thought out idea, and how that leads into the clubhouse and the main heart of the site. I think it's very well thought out, and just the lines and circulation throughout the site I think are very well done. I also enjoy how the aesthetics of the colors, the accents, the addition of the further board and batten to the buildings themselves. They blend well with the tree species that are on the site there, and I think it's going to, for a large development, is not going to be overwhelming for the site. That being said, on the west side of the site, just on the other side of the fence there, and on the other side of a small line of trees, of a sort of narrow band of trees, is the CAL FIRE yard, which I imagine will be pretty active at times of year, and at least we'll have machinery and equipment. And I think that anything you can do to increase that buffer over on that side in particular will add to the attractiveness of that side of the site. I noticed that with the bioretention facilities that you got over there, there was some rethinking of the trees and of the orchard parking. I I just think some way to add any sort of tree buffer to that side will be a net positive for what's a pretty busy side of the site. To contrast that with the eastern side, where you have the creek and the Santa Rosa Fire facility, you've got that whole creek corridor there, which is buffering that. And so I think taking that kind of idea and bringing some of that over there. I know space is very tight. Yes, I think that I just wanted to also commend you on the affordable housing aspect, and that this is a really much needed amenity. And I very much echo the comments from Generation Housing, both the speaker and the letter that was submitted. I think this is going to be a great addition to the city and the community. So thank you. I look forward to seeing this in a couple of years. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Sharon. Board Member Cordenbrock, comments and any friendly amendments?
Great, thank you. Yeah, really nice evolution. I think my comments, Adam, Board Member Sharon had hit on a few of them, so I won't belabor some of those. I do like the subtlety of the color palette. I wish there was maybe another accent color, but maybe that's just something to consider. I don't know. Just maybe taking a look at that, and maybe it's something equally as subtle as the avocado, or something that kind of blends in with that. But overall, really like the scheme, the kind of pushing and pulling and reveals, especially on some of the corner elements. Let's see, in that same vein, I think it's the southern elevation of building C was just a little flat. And so I think let's see, on a sheet, I guess it's, A13, south elevation 3. It's just something different from, I noticed in like the west and the north elevation, there's a couple of kind of pushes in or recesses. And so maybe there's an opportunity on that south elevation as well, just to match kind of the character of that west elevation and the north elevation of building C. So just a thought. Let's see. One of the things I noticed too in this iteration, although I think the design here is superior, and especially on the courtyard side, you've kind of given up that buffer that used to be in your 2019 plans from the west. I guess it's the west parking lot and the face of building C, the west elevation of building C. And so that has narrowed substantially. And especially for such a tall building, is there an opportunity to kind of push that back off a few more feet? Because I noticed there's a few, let's see, you have some balconies, or at least kind of patios or private areas that butt kind of right up against or close to that sidewalk on that west side of building C. There's a slight planting buffer, but anyway, something to consider if you can cheat into the courtyard. I know it's a balancing act, so just something I noticed, and maybe something to consider there as well. Really enjoyed the evolution of the courtyard, kind of rotating it that 45 degrees gives it a little bit more space off of the building. So you've got, more lushness, I guess, in terms of the courtyard now compared to the other version, or the 2019 project that we saw. Kudos on that. And then yeah, really like the paseo or the kind of the pathway through and the table that you've created to kind of create that flush condition across the buildings, you know, clubhouse to building A and B. Really like the view that you provided for that. That's, I think, effective. The only thing maybe to consider in that same stretch is if there's possibility for more orchard style parking to kind of really green up that, passageway through. Let's see. And then I think we heard about the creek access. Sorry, my babies. Does anyone else want to go?
We'll let board member Cordenbrock take a break. I've got a newborn across the street from us, so I'm totally used to, and I admire the sound, so it doesn't bother me. Board member Wicks, why don't we go with you for comments and friendly amendments?
Be glad to give my fellow board member a break. Most of board member Sharon's comments and where Cordenbrock was going, I concur, agree with. I don't know if except for the adding another color, I like the color palette as it is. I think on building the 4-story buildings, I'd like to somehow see it added in more spots. I totally get and understand, and from a design standpoint, I kind of agree with emphasizing the color at the entry elements or letting somebody know that something different's going on. But I think once you're there and the tenants are there, I think you kind of get used to your paths of travel and just make it a consideration to add more of the green accent color in more spots on the 4-story building. The 3-story building, for some reason, it feels adequate, maybe the reduction in size, but the larger, longer spans of just gray and the earth tone, I personally would love to see it broken up a little bit more with the green accent color. Thank you very much for the evolution of the project. I'm going to restate something my other board members said, but it just feels better. You addressed a lot of our concerns the first time around. It's always nice to see a project come back to us that is complete and we can make a recommendation to move it on to the next level. I think I harped on about the pool being too much in shade, so nice solution with rotating it that 45 degrees and getting it further away from the western shadow the 4-story building is going to cast on it. So I think that really helps me with that area, and then the other board members' comments about making it more of a usable multi-purpose space as well. Good luck with the project. I'm fully supportive of it, and not sure how we could phrase a friendly amendment to shall provide creek access to the greatest extent possible, to not, I just don't want to phrase it in a way that it becomes an ADA issue and there's not an avenue that I think there is. I think there's an avenue to get both ADA accessible access and just access on the same property in 2 different locations. So I'd like to see, to the greatest extent possible, that there's access in the south, somewhere along the south property edge, because we're all human beings. When we're going out for a walk, and to have to go all the way back up to West College if your unit is down in the southwest corner, it's just a convenience factor and make it a nicer amenity to the project to be able to access that pathway in a closer location. Other than that, that's a nitpick on the grand scale of what the project is and what you're providing for the community with affordable housing aspect. So thank you very much for bringing this before us, and good luck with the project in the future. Maybe board member Cordenbrock is back to a spot where he can continue.
I am. Thank you. I think Henry just hit on one item was the access. Again, we can phrase it however we want, but I think an additional one, at least one, makes a whole lot of sense. Also, I didn't see, and I don't know if I think it's required at this step, but the lighting plan and photometrics, any cut sheets and things like that. I'm assuming staff can handle that, but usually we like to have that as part of the package. So as long as staff feels confident in reviewing and making the call on that. Okay.
Board Member Cordenbrock, yes, absolutely. We can handle that at final design review.
Okay. Let's see. And then one last comment. It was in regard to the pool utility building. I know it's probably a cost thing, and I understand it. I wonder if it can be kind of appended to or included in building C somehow to not have kind of that feature kind of sitting out in the I guess out right next to the pool itself and up against the parking. But that's just something I guess I know the answer I think to that. But that's I think something to consider in terms of decluttering a little bit on that one as well. So those are all my comments. Thank you. Thank you very much, applicant team, for bringing it back. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Board Member Cordenbrock. Vice Chair Hedgepeth.
Yes, thank you, fellow board members, for all your great comments. I want to say I lived in Santa Rosa a long time. This is the best USA property ever that they've brought as far as the refinement and the I'm not saying other projects are marginal or anything. I'm just saying that architecturally and with the site planning and what you're doing here, it was really pleasant to hear about all of your programs. There are nonprofit people that have been around for years, and they've had various levels of management. But between education and site counseling and making the actual experience of being in a USA property one that is centered around growth and validation, that is a real plus. It obviously goes into stabilizing your renters. You don't want a lot of high turnover, and you want to grow people in the community to be wonderful citizens. And so with more USA properties, there'll be fewer jails, perhaps. But the comments in general, mine are quite small. I know that the water agency manages that creek, and there are various structures. There's thoughts about stair steps and not going all the way to West College to circle back and be a part of that creek. I'm only going to put it back in the hands of the owner developer, and if switchbacks are needed for grade with ramping, wheelchairs can only do so much before the whole pathway is gravel. So the whole trigger point is I'm familiar on a landscape basis with how we can make an equitable experience for handicapped people, a nature experience. I'm only saying that when you go into grade access and you look at structures or policies that the water agency may have, they have to maintain flood control. There's going to be front-end loaders and things down there in big biblical years. So that's all I'm saying. If that can be navigated and something can happen, fine. It's more of a suggestion on my side rather than a shall, because of the unknowns and those policies. I really like the parapets coming down. The building is more serene. They didn't need to be super high. Your roof shed, watershed works great. One of my comments was, when I look at the whole color palette, I'm fine with it with the thought, this is just a thought, your World Gray body 2 is a cooler color. Earl Gray body 3 is a cool color. Artichoke's kind of a cool green. Tricorn Black is straight black. The first color body is called Hamburg Gray. If you made that a bit smokier brown, if you put some kind of a slight touch of dark chocolate in with that color, it would kind of glow. It would put itself into kind of a light color a little more. It's not that I don't like Hamburg Gray, but everything else is so bluish. If that was more roasted, if you could toast it in a toaster for 4 minutes, maybe 3.5 minutes, and just make it a little deeper, but put a little brown in there, it might be a joyful thing. So I think I've really spoke my piece. Everyone's talked about the concourse, the experience of coming off West College and on a pedestrian level, arriving at that sparkling pool with its rays reflecting up and bouncing off the building. That's choice. It's wonderful. I spoke my piece about car management, and I'm very satisfied with what I'm hearing. You've overparked this. You're trying to create great monitoring and civility. A lot of things may happen with cars in the future, including if you think of the Beach Boys song, Get Around, I Get Around, that's the app, Get Around. Who knows where that goes? But I have a son who's lowering his car payment from about $350 or $400 a month to, I think, $146. So if my son's doing it, look out. That's all. Bye.
Okay, before I get into my comments, we've had a couple of ideas regarding color palette. So we've got kind of 3 on the table. One is add an additional color. The other is add more of the green accent to building C. And the third one that we just heard was, do something, a little something with the Hamburg Gray to make it smoky or toasted. So maybe we can have a little further discussion on how we phrase this, color. It sounds like everybody's earning for a little more variation or different hue. So anybody got any ideas?
I'll retract mine. I'll retract my statement.
Okay, so we're down. We don't need another color. Now we just need more of one and maybe a change to one. Do we want a shall on the building C with the green accents and a consider on the changing the Hamburg Gray to something a little more smoky?
What I meant by that, by smoky, don't keep it blue smoke. Have it be more of an, there's umber gray, Utrecht gray, the brown, excuse me. You get some acorn brown mixed with that gray. So it's just a warmer charcoal gray.
Warmer charcoal gray. So Henry, it sounded to me like yours was like shall, and the board member Hedgepeth is maybe a consider. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I consider on the, yeah, I'd go consider. I'd sort of like to hear from the applicant. Maybe I should have asked it as a question.
Let's pose it to the applicant. They're here, and we might as well get their input on building C.
On building C, adding more of the avocado green color in additional spaces besides just the entry point.
Does a member of the applicant team want to chime in to see if that's a thought that would resonate with the design team?
Applicant team, you have the ability to mute and unmute yourselves. We just like you to stay muted when you're not.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. This is Rosa with USA Properties. We can certainly look at that. Ron, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah,
anything on colors?
Too. Yeah, I think, I think we can actually do both. I think we can look at the hue of the base colors, I think is what you were talking about. A lot of times, particularly when you see, you do a test swatch on the building, and you're like, yeah, And I agree. If we just play with the hue a little bit, it might create a little bit more emphasis. But I think it sounds like those are fairly minor. And so what I heard was maybe shift one of the colors to create a little bit more impact, which I think we can certainly look at, and then look for some more opportunities. In the same vein, look for more opportunities, maybe either to introduce the green to create that more impact. So it sounds like just dialing the dial a little bit, just to create a little bit more punch in that building, is what I'm hearing, and we would certainly do that. It didn't sound like it was a wholesale change. It was just maybe refine it a little bit.
Correct. Absolutely not a wholesale change. Yep. Vice Chair Hedgepeth, anything further on your end on that?
I'm happy with what I just heard. That's fine. It's there are considerations. It could even be a non-item. You just bump it off the rail. We have a motion, and it sounds like the applicant is cheerful about having their art palette work.
Yeah.
All right. So my comments are this: is that when we, as a board, and I enjoy saying this, when we get down to these kind of nitty picky items that are not, wholesale changes to projects, it means that we're at a point where you've achieved superior design, and we're saying maybe consider tweak this or that, which is a happy place, I hope, for both the board and the applicant team. And certainly I know that the city staff enjoys getting to this point. So again, don't want to repeat what my fellow colleagues have said, but it's a job well done, and we appreciate you taking heed to some of our previous comments. And it really has turned out to be a better project along the way through your efforts. So thank you for that. So we've got the motion in a second, and I'll go through and read through what I heard from my board members, and then we can make any changes to that as necessary. So board member Sharon and board members Wicks and Cordenbrock, and I think everyone would agree that we'd like more access where possible to the pathway. So here's how I wrote it down. Shall, to the greatest extent possible, create more connections to the pathway, with the southwest being the priority, so that you create the loop, if that's all you can do. And so I'd be curious, as I get through all of these items with staff, is the only thing I can see that being a problem is that, it could be that you do away with a fence. That would be the greatest extent possible to add access, right?
Yeah.
Chair Kincaid, project planner Ross here, and I apologize to interrupt, but we've drafted a little bit of language for you to consider for that condition.
Great.
And it reads as: incorporate, to the extent feasible, additional creek access on the southern portion of the property. So the reasoning behind that is that it's not a shall, because the access itself would have to be reviewed by multiple authorities, and it also could potentially indicate or lead to a security concern in the future. I did get a little bit more information, and this is, and don't quote me on it, but this is just the Sonoma County Water Agency would allow access typically in previous projects, as long as it's open all the time. So I don't know if that would, if that is true for sure, then that may indicate a separate, a new issue with security of the site and so forth. So for your consideration, of course, but just wanted to give that information and throw that out there.
You want to read it one more time for the board, please?
Sure. It says, incorporate, to the extent feasible, additional creek access on the southern portion of the property.
Okay, we'll let that people mull on that for a moment. Board Member Sharon, you also had consider more dense planting and treescape on the west property line to create a greater buffer.
Consider is fine for that.
Board Member Cordenbrock, you said consider on the south elevation of Building C to enhance the push and pull of the elevation to be more in line with other elevations. You also had consider on the west side of Building C to cheat the edge of the building to allow for more buffer. And staff shall review the photometrics of the project during final design review.
And fixtures, I guess, lighting plan and fixtures.
Lighting plan and fixtures and photometrics. And Board Member Wicks, consider adding more of the green accent color at Building C. Board Member Hedgepeth, consider a more warm charcoal gray to what is currently shown as the Homburg gray. And mine would be shall install fencing at the sport court area to match either the pool fencing or the new perimeter tube steel fencing for the site perimeter. And consider a more permanent shade element at the sport court. Those are the items that I had. Did I miss anything? See no one saying I missed something. So I'll ask staff, do you want clarification on any of those items?
So were there any other shalls in there? I'm sorry, I kind of got a little lost in as they came in.
So the shalls would be, and this is more staff shall review photometrics, lighting, fixtures, and lighting plan at final review. And shall install fencing at the sport court area to match either the pool fencing or the new perimeter tube steel fencing.
Okay.
So those two shalls.
Thank you.
And I believe I saw everyone confirm that your verbiage on the access to the path was acceptable. And with those friendly amendments, does the applicant hear anything that would not be feasible to attempt?
I don't know about you, Royce.
Yep, here I am. Sorry. The little mute microphone keeps going away off my screen, so I apologize for my technical challenge here. But yes, no, we find these conditions acceptable.
Great. So I need a board member that was not a motioner and not the second to suggest those friendly amendments for adoption.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I would like to, as Chair Kincaid so well put the conditions, so I'd like to, I guess, read those. I don't know, read those into the, or append those to the motion.
Great. Does the motioner accept the friendly amendments? Vice Chair Hedgepeth? I think your microphone was not working either way, so give us a,
yes. Yes, no.
Thank you. And does the second accept those friendly amendments?
Yes, I do.
Great. Patty, may I have a roll call, please?
Okay. Board Member Wicks.
Aye.
Board Member Sharon.
Aye.
Board Member Cordenbrock.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hedgepeth.
Aye.
Chair Kincaid.
Aye. Great. We have a unanimous approval. And just wanted to again thank the applicant, staff, and the project team for a great presentation. Wish you best of luck on the project, and we appreciate your continued investment in the city of Santa Rosa.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me find my agenda again. I know where we're going with it, but I need to be able to read it. So we are on to item 8.2. This is a concept design review, Santa Rosa Avenue Housing and Storage, located at 3111 and 3119 Santa Rosa Avenue, file number DR10-042.
Chair Kincaid, sorry to interrupt. Would it be possible to take a 5-minute break? We do have staff in the council chambers, and it might be good to give them just a quick break.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, but great. So let's go ahead and recess for 5 minutes. We'll see you back here at, let's just call it 6:40.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Chair Kincaid and board members, it looks like we're ready to start the meeting back.
Okay, here we are. So we'll go ahead and start again here. We are on agenda item 8.2, which is the concept design review, Santa Rosa Avenue Housing and Storage, located at 3111 and 3119 Santa Rosa Avenue, file number DR10-042. And I believe we have Senior Planner Susie Murray to give us a brief staff presentation.
Chair Kincaid, we're just promoting Susie to a panelist. It'll be just one moment.
Thank you.
Hello there. I made it.
Oh.
I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Did I succeed?
Not yet.
Yeah.
And Vice Chair Hedgepeth, you're unmuted. There you go. Here we go.
Good. Okay. Can you still see it?
Yes, we can.
Yay! So the project before you this evening is it's a concept review for the Santa Rosa Housing and Storage project. It's located at 3111 and 3119 Santa Rosa Avenue. The project includes a lot of self-storage, or several buildings of self-storage. The applicant will go into the design of both the residential and the storage components, but it also includes 48 units of housing, which is about 1.9% of our goal for housing. So here's just a site plan, and the top is north. So north, it's just south of Bellevue Avenue, and on the west side of Santa Rosa Avenue, in the lower right-hand corner or the southeast corner, that's where the residential uses would be placed. There are 48 family units proposed, and the self-storage buildings really shield the residential from Highway 101 and from Bellevue Avenue to the north. And then there's a mini storage building also on the southwest corner of the property. In the center there, they're proposing RV storage. The entitlements would, or project permits would require a minor conditional use permit and a major design review. So tonight we're asking the board for comments and direction. Here's an aerial view of the site right now. I was there not too long ago, and it looks very much like this still. And just to give you some context to the surroundings here, they're in that little pink line says that they're in the county. Right now they're in the process of annexing into the city. We did the pre-zoning hearing not too long ago. Over to the east, they're with Terry May Lane. that's all residential over there. And then then along Santa Rosa Avenue here, there's a lot of kind of vehicle related businesses. There's more self-storage to the north, and there is a mobile home park to the south. And then in the semi near future, well, maybe not so near, sometime in the next decade or two, we'll probably see an overpass going over 101 there to connect to Bellevue Avenue on the other side of 101. The general plan land use designation in that area is retail and business services. And as I said, they were just recently pre-zoned consistent with the general plan land use designation as general commercial. So here's the conceptual site plan, which looks prettier with the landscape plan, I suppose. And then here are a couple of the elevations. The top elevation is the north elevation of the residential units, and the bottom elevation is the north elevation of the self-storage unit. I'm gonna really defer to the applicant to give you paint that picture of what the buildings are going to look like. So with that, it is recommended by the Planning and Economic Development Department that the Design Review Board provide comments and direction for the Santa Rosa Avenue Housing and Storage Project. And with that, unless you have any questions for me, I'd like to hand it off to my applicants.
Thank you, Senior Planner Murray. I believe we'll go ahead and hear the applicant presentation, and then we'll do a question and dialogue with both the applicant and staff. So when the applicant is ready, if you're speaking, you could introduce yourself and relationship to the project. That would be very helpful. And welcome this evening.
Thank you. I'll start. My name is Will Marks. First, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Confirmed.
Thank you. My name is Will Marks. I have two partners. We are the owners, developers of the site. My partners are Evan Lillivand and Mike House. So together we're a partnership of really two entities. We're working together on other projects as well. But between our entities, we're developers and owners of various commercial and residential real estate projects that include multifamily, mini storage, both concepts that will be used here, as well as retail and industrial buildings. And our business history spanned 20 plus years. We have experience, not so much in the exact surrounding area, but a significant number of our projects are in Northern California, where we're based. And we have multifamily projects in Marin County. We have storage facilities in the city of Sonoma in terms of nearby projects. And we also do own industrial and retail buildings in Santa Rosa, just not storage and multifamily at this point. About 3 years ago, we went under contract to purchase this site, 4.5 acres, that I won't repeat what Susie said in terms of the address location. As this corridor along Santa Rosa Avenue heads south from downtown, it's being developed and improved, as you all know. We saw an opportunity to take what's currently, you saw in that picture, land with no improvements and being leased to companies selling and storing autos and RVs, and turn this into a combination of housing and mini storage. Our view is that the current use is not the highest and best use of the land for the city of Santa Rosa. And we see an opportunity to improve on this. We believe the city and the local community will benefit significantly from our development. Currently, we've been going through the process of annexing the site, as Susie mentioned, as well as designing the project. And so Randy Figueredo and Katie Elmore of Tierney Figueredo are our multifamily architects. Ken Carroll of ARE is our storage architect. Don McNair is our landscape architect. And Eric Wade of BKF is the civil engineer in charge of our project. They're on this call now. And I believe that the Tierney Figueredo group is going to take over from here describing the project. So thank you for letting me introduce ourselves.
The applicant team has the ability to mute and unmute.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now? This is Katie Elmore, and I'm with Tierney Figueredo Architects. And just a few comments about the project. So there's two portions, as you've already mentioned, the self-storage to the north and the west, and then the multifamily portion on the southeast. And RV storage in between, in the middle of the self-storage. So it's screened from Highway 101 and the future overpass. The project has two access points from Santa Rosa Avenue. On the north end, there's access to both the self-storage and to the housing. And then on the south end, it's just housing access with an EVA to the self-storage site. The housing is, the multifamily housing has the parking on the perimeter of the site, covered parking on the north side and on the west side, right up against the wall of the self-storage, and then a little bit of covered parking on the south. There are 84 spaces, which is the required number of parking spaces for the number of units, which are 48 apartments, 10 two-bedroom apartments, and 38 one-bedroom apartments. And the site was arranged with sort of broken up into three different parts, three buildings, if you will. Building 1 on the west, it's the cluster of 4 that you see there, and then building 2 is a C shape in the middle with the community building on the south of that. And then on the Santa Rosa Avenue, it's the 3rd building. And these are all arranged around courtyards to provide light and air into all the apartments and to create a enclosed but garden-like courtyard in between the spaces. So with that, maybe we could go to the next slide. Can I actually make the slides go further? Maybe I can. So here's the site, as Will already talked about. It's pretty empty at the moment. And the next are the site photos, either from the site or of the surrounding areas pointing towards the site. And then this is the landscape plan, and I think you really get to see a sense of the courtyards, the planted courtyards here, just the amount of kind of the big specimen trees in the middle, and Don McNair obviously can talk more to this. There's also a bioswale on the south property line, and also on the Santa Rosa Avenue in front of building 3 there. So that will be pretty heavily planted. At the community building, that has outdoor access with a bit of lawn even, and gathering spaces. The community building also includes inside a laundry and a leasing office and an area with a kitchenette and gathering space with access to the courtyard and to the south parking lot. And if we could go to the next slide. And then this is the civil plan. If Eric Wade is here, he could speak more to this. But again, I've mentioned the bioswales and the RV parking and parking lots, trash enclosure on the south side of the site. And so these are conceptual floor plans of the building 1, and building 3 on Santa Rosa Avenue is the same except mirrored. And it's 2 bedrooms, 3 2-bedrooms on the ground floor and 1 1-bedroom so they're each corner of that, with outdoor stairs going up, tucked into a recess. It is covered stairs. And then on the 2nd floor and 3rd floor, you have 1 2-bedroom apartment and 5 1-bedroom apartments. And they have outdoor balconies facing onto these courtyard areas. Access is from different points of the site. The emphasis is again on light and air, and also active eyes for safety coming into the site, coming into the different courtyards. The hope is that there are always eyes to some extent, but it can also be a private contemplative environment potentially. So on the next slide. And then this is the building 2, which is the middle building, and the community building. So you can see the community building on the right-hand plan, ground floor plan, shows the community room and like an access lobby, and with a covered area outside with the laundry access and the office and an accessible bathroom, restroom as well for use. And then this building 2 has its balcony on the parking lot side, on the north side. So it gets all the southern exposure into those apartments. And that was definitely a design intent, was to keep this central area as low as possible so that we could potentially get more south and east light into those building 1 and 3's courtyards. So the dog legs here are just 2 stories, with the back part of building 2 being 3 stories. Next slide. And this, again, this is building 3, very similar to building 1. In fact, it's exactly the same except mirrored to face the street. So it forms a pretty tight buffer between Santa Rosa Avenue, and you can come in via a covered walkway basically in the buildings, and then there's a courtyard garden there. So, and these are the conceptual elevations. It's a combination of stucco and corrugated metal siding. And the top, you see the north elevation. So that's facing the north part of the mini storage. And it shows it across the whole site. So you can see how the building massing, and we tried to really articulate the masses there with different materials, balconies and entrance balconies and private balconies, big windows and some small windows too, so with recesses. And the south elevation, and of course the Santa Rosa Avenue side and the west elevations get these bays and recesses, which create a rhythm, a dynamic rhythm, if you will, of the balconies, which should be comfortable spaces, even if they're small. And then the south elevation, where you can see the 2-story dog legs there and the 1-story community building with the rest of the 3-story buildings. Parking lots, you can see a bit of the covered parking here and the landscaping. And the next slide. Just some conceptual color elevations, looking at sand, stucco, and sage gray with like an accent of rust. In their metal balconies, metal railings and balconies, and next slide. And these are the conceptual colors and materials. Again, you see the metal siding combined with the stucco and large contemporary windows, control joints on the stucco, and a very clean look is the hope, with some pop of color. And the next slide. And then this is the self-storage. And I could let, I don't know whether Ken Carroll is here, but this is stucco, again, similar material palette with stucco and some corrugated siding and roofing with large storefront windows. And if he is here, if Ken Carroll, who is the architect of this portion, is here, he could speak more to that. And the next slide is, I think, again, is more self-storage. Yeah, showing some trellising and different mono-pitched roofs. Yeah. And that completes the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Will. Great thorough presentation for a concept review.
Chair Kincaid, can I interject? This is Susie.
You certainly may, Susie.
I think the architect for the storage facility would also like to say a few words. If we could get,
absolutely.
And I'll check in with the applicant and find out if we want to have the landscaper check or speak as well.
Just so you guys are aware, all of the applicant team, you have the ability to mute and unmute yourselves. You do not need to raise your hand. You already have permissions. You just have to select the button and start talking. Thank you.
This is Will Marks. If Ken Carroll may not be on the call, so give him.
He has permissions.
We'll give him 30 seconds, and if he's not there, let's move on.
It looks like he is unmuted. Ken, are you able to speak so we can test your microphone? If you are testing your microphone, Ken, we are not able to hear you at this time. You are unmuted, and it does show that you have a microphone in. You might have to play with your settings a little bit.
Okay, board members, we have rebooted the AV and it's turning itself back on. It takes just a few seconds. So hopefully everything will work this time.
I'll check again. Ken, Carol, if you figured out the unmute, please test it out.
Will, he just sent me an email saying that he's got, he has an old microphone and it's working. So assuming he gets approval from the appropriate party,
okay,
he should be able to speak once we get going.
Okay, board members, our apologies. It looks like we're back on. The media room confirmed again that we're back live. The AV is on and fingers crossed.
It looks like we're just waiting on board member Sharon to start the video. And there he is. Okay, so maybe while Ken is attempting to get live with us via audio, we can go ahead and continue with Mr. McNair's landscape presentation.
Okay, I think the last thing I said was the Valley Oaks in the bioretention area along the south side. It is Valley Oak habitat, I believe, so I think it's an appropriate tree in an appropriate situation. If we can move into the courtyards, kind of the concept is, as I said earlier, pedestrian friendly. There's seating spaces, there are places to hang out. They're also a way to move through the development, pretty straightforward from area to area. In the center of the complex, we have a kind of a common space in the back behind the community building. And, you know, it's the idea is just a nice place to hang out and visit, socialize, and, you know, have it look relatively nice. There's a little postage stamp of a lawn in there, just to provide a little greenery if you're in the laundry looking out, that's what you would be looking at, Japanese maples and lawn right there. The carport itself that is up against the mini storage actually is kind of provides the foreground for that. So the storage from the elevations we saw will be really well screened just with the carport alone. Where I could put trees, I did. And you know, really have some low growing shade loving plants kind of between the carport and the mini storage itself. As you wrap around the front of the building, basically just Santa Rosa Street frontage, you know, street trees, entry accent coming into the facility, and you know, fairly robust plant palette for interest and color and texture. And I think really that's it in a nutshell. I think that's unless you have any questions, I would be relinquish my the microphone.
Hey, Don. Pardon me. Any chance that we've got Ken live yet?
Also, if you can confirm the last 4 digits of their phone number, we would need to give any phone callers permission as well. We see a Ken Carroll logged in from a computer, and they have permissions, but we haven't been able to hear them. But if we have the last 4 digits of the phone number they're calling from, we can give that device permissions as well to speak. We have a couple phone callers, so I don't want to give permissions to the wrong person.
Susie, do you have a phone number to dial into that I can give to Ken and try and get him to dial in? He's on his computer, which you guys see as active, but he doesn't have a microphone that's working for some reason. So I'd like to give him phone instructions if I can.
Hold on 1 second and I will get you a phone number. Mike, Patty, do either of you have the phone number handy?
I just posted it on our feed, 888-475-4499.
And note when they call, they will have to put in the same webinar ID to be able to access this meeting, which is 918-5533-4916. And we can repeat either of those if you need.
Could you repeat that ID again? 918-55?
Sure, 918-5533-4916.
Okay, I just sent it to him. Okay, Ken told me he's on the phone. The last 4 digits are 4752.
Perfect. I have just given him permission to speak. He should be able to press *6 and it will unmute himself. And it looks like that's...
Hello, everyone. This
Hi,
is Ken Carroll.
Hello,
Ken.
I'm Claire. Welcome, Ken.
I apologize. I thought I could dial in on the phone and it would let me speak, and it doesn't.
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Basically, the materials on the self-storage are going to mimic the materials on the apartment complex. So I don't know if there's anything more I need to tell you about the project. It's a very low traffic generator. Doesn't have a lot of vehicles going in and out of the facility during the day. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Ken, this is Susie Murray, the project planner, and I know this is difficult. I have your page A7 up on the screen. Do you have a hard copy of that?
I have a hard copy.
If you could perhaps just look at your hard copy and just describe, so for other people that are listening, what the materials are and where the elevations are facing and what have you. I think it would be helpful for anybody outside of our board, members of the public that may be watching.
Oh, okay. basically, if you're looking at the east elevation, that would be the one facing the street, Santa Rosa Avenue. The fencing that you see to the right-hand side, that is up close, and the building right behind it, just behind the fencing, is close to the street, and the office to the right of the fence is close to the street. To the left of the fencing that's on the right-hand side, that is actually stepped back quite a distance, and the apartment complex will block most of the view of that elevation. And then looking at the south elevation, I've got it broken down into two parts because, again, this is an L-shaped project, and so the part on the left and that appears a little darker, that is all close to the property line, closest to the south, where the part that's to the right of that, the lighter color, that is all, the apartment complex will be in between us and the property line. The materials that we're using on the office are corrugated metal and glazing mostly. The rest of it is typically stucco. That's a fairly good material to use in a situation like this. And because carport's going to block most of the view of that, I think it's an appropriate use. The tower elements, actually, if you can go to A8. If you look at the tower elements on the west elevation, those are there for just to break up the exterior. We've got a trellis that the landscape architect will plant so that we'll have some nice screening. And we've gone with the corrugated metal on the tower elements and stucco on the rest of it. The north elevations, we didn't do a whole lot because of the overpass that's being proposed. And again, we used, stucco because of its durability. The office is still wrapped in the corrugated metal, and we've got a standing seam metal roof that goes over it. That's about all I can tell you. It's actually a very simple project.
Great. Thank you very much, Ken. I'm sure there will be some questions and some comments. So any other presentation from the applicant?
I think that's all from us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So even though this is a concept item, our general practice is to allow for public comment. So now that we've heard from staff and the applicant, I would like to open up the public comment period. Each member of the public wishing to comment has 3 minutes to do so. And I'll ask staff if we see any hands raised.
Susie, if you can please close down your presentation.
And Chair Kincaid, I don't see any hands raised right now.
Chair Kincaid, Susie again, and I have received an email that I'm happy to read for you about the project.
Yeah, let's go ahead and ask that anyone who is unmuted, if they could mute themselves, and then we'll have you read that to the record. All right, sounds like maybe the Echo went away. So Susie, the floor is yours.
Okay. The prospect of development of this project with housing and storage, I would like to point out the current need for a full stoplight at Santa Rosa Avenue to help control traffic from the grade school on Bellevue East and Quail Run Apartments. Adding apartments at that intersection will indeed complicate the already difficult transverse of Santa Rosa Avenue. Also, I'm not sure what RV storage would accomplish for the site. And that is thanks, Mary Harmon.
All right. Well, we appreciate Ms. Harmon's contribution to the public comment period. Patty, any hands raised out there?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Then we will go ahead and bring it back to the board and close public comment. So let's see, we'll start in reverse order that we did from the last one. So Board Member Wicks, we'll just give you the mic. You can ask questions, make comments, and it's pretty casual, as you know, on the concept design review.
Yeah, I appreciate a fairly well developed package for concept. Makes the comments easier for the next go around to be conveyed. Question for Susie: Is this one or two parcels in its final iteration? In other words, is the storage going to be subdivided into a parcel and the housing will remain another parcel?
We don't have formal applications yet, but that is my understanding that right now it's two parcels, and there will be a lot line adjustment to basically put the housing on one parcel and the storage on another.
Okay, thank you. For the applicant, another question. What's the height of the carports? Have you determined that yet, or that may be something for down the road? But I'm just kind of curious the height of the carport in relationship to the 14-foot high wall of the storage units.
If Katie Elmore is still on the call, please.
Yeah.
On that issue, thank you.
I am, and I'm just looking at our sections, and you can see it on the north elevation. It's lower than the 14 feet. And I don't remember specifically, but it's about 10 feet to 12 feet on the front. And then on the lower side, it's 8 feet.
Okay. Susie, can you bring up the elevations? Chairman Kincaid, you want my comments too now, right? You don't want to question and then come back to us.
Yeah, I think you can take your time and ask your questions and provide your comments. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'd like to see sheet A7. I guess my comment is I like the east elevation is facing us, and you can see the dashed line for the housing project in front of us, and similarly on the south elevation. Those are really long walls of one material, and I appreciate the carports being in front of them and it's going to break it up, but I would suggest that it be looked at that there's either a breakup of material change at some sort of rhythm of maybe 20 feet on center. There's a different, a couple of reveal lines and a 5 or 6 foot wide swath of a different color of stucco. I just like to see something that breaks up that long 14-foot high by 100-foot plus long plane of plain stucco. And maybe Don McNair can devise a way of maybe making it a landscape material change, and having trellises on those walls in a rhythm that would break up that wall and provide more green space to it. That's kind of why I was getting at the 1 or 2 parcels, and there may be some maintenance agreements, but maybe there's a way to set it up to allow planting on the walls. The other comments, Susie, if you could go to sheet A6. I think that shows the nice mix of elevations. I like the elevations. I like the material changes. I even like your color palette that you've started. I think the weakness that might get stronger is the east elevation of building 3. It's going to be the prominent elevation, and the material change. If you look at the north and south elevation, there's not a lot of change in that as it wraps around the corner until you get back to the building 3 north elevation, where the corrugated metal change happens. But kind of back focusing on the east end of the elevation, the one that faces Santa Rosa Avenue, I'd like to see, you've got your sage gray color is very subdued in that elevation, and maybe the center section where it points to stucco, you can develop a way to let that sage green grow taller. Maybe the parapet has a shift there in that particular building where there's a sense of hierarchy and the architecture on that end of the building. I'll let you come back with something that makes that elevation a little bit stronger. Also notice your reveal lines kind of ignore where we need reveal lines, and that's at the window heights, head heights, and they line up with openings, but don't quite align with the window openings. So on the north elevation of building 2, they make sense, but on building 3, they kind of miss where you're going to need them. And just a suggestion to take a look at that and make it make sense with the architecture. I think it's an interesting use of the site. Actually, I think the mix of storage and having it so close for people that are in apartments that need to access storage units. I think from that aspect, it's very convenient for those people living in the residential units. I encourage you to further develop the project and bring it back to us in the future. I think it's off to a really good start with both the site planning, the architecture, the landscaping. Appreciate Mr. McNair developing a fairly well thought out landscape plan, and like the interaction of the courtyards. I like a lot of aspects of the project and look forward to seeing it at preliminary design review level.
Thank you, Board Member Wicks. How about Vice Chair Hedgepeth?
Thank you, Chair Kincaid. I appreciated Henry's comments. I like the strength of the project. Obviously, is the whole courtyard world and how that's knit together on a social level. That's really a great strength. It's a hat trick working with storage, mini storage, and housing. This is actually, in one way, the strongest application we've had, where housing, at least 48 units, is in the proceedings, and the storage is more diminutive. And I'm respectful that the applicant, with financing and looking at revenue streams, this is kind of a blend, and the avenue is kind of a blend. If in 80 years from now, housing happened where the storage was, that's fine. But I can understand things. just speaking in general terms, in the plan on this, you go to the, excuse me, if we go to the architectural plan, which is that it's the courtyard plan, there's some storage, excuse me, not storage, hang on here. Susie, if we can go back to, yeah, go right back there, hang it one more, roll it forward. Let me tell you where to stop. Keep going. Right there. Okay, no, right there. Thank you. It may be diagrammatic, but I know there is, Randy, a very cubic aspect to your architecture, and that's very strong. There's kind of a lyre-like or kind of a banjo-like curve up in the upper balconies. I'm not sure if that's diagrammatic or not, but it seems like some of the things that were articulated in the balcony, if you go to the floor above as well, I'm thinking the strength of the project is the cubicness. And I appreciated Board Member Wicks talking about the very front Vital West building, maybe having a darker color in the middle with the parapets. I will say that with our new code since January of 2020, any buildings 3 stories and under have a solar obligation, and you can go photovoltaic, you can go PVs for your carports, convert the carports to PVs. They're not really carports, they're PV holders. Some developers like that because the maintenance and cost of solar panels on building roofs can exceed the cost of on-site. This goes to the point of whether they're higher or not. I don't mind planting vines, Don, the whole thing about a ficus rubus or some kind of vine that crawls up the sides of the mini storage. It's a lot of trouble to go to plastering over the CMU block. That's a lot of plaster there, and that's a good vote. But in general, I like where the project's going. I think with being squarish centric, the ribbing on your metal, if you can get square box versus round box, that would be kind of crisp. Again, I liked Henry's thoughts about maybe a slight variation in the parapet height. Love the trees, Don. Really powerful. Going south on the avenue, that whole array of trees will soften this. It's going to bring really to a, I'll just have to say it, kind of a neglected, abandoned avenue that defaulted over decades to car-centric. Bringing trees, this is going to be a super plus. So love the trees, and I think, Randy, I think it's wonderful you and your staff have looked at this courtyard scheme there. It's a beautiful thing, and I hope my comments in general on the mini storage will be taken to heart. The green roof is a little jarring to me. I know there may be some logo things, but I would prefer that be covered in signage, and it's just jarring to see that dark emerald green metal roof just bounce at you going up and down the avenue, like the glass there. But in general, my comments are, I'm not so obsessed with trellises along layering or softening the mini storage as I am plants. Just digging out big, deep, you'll love this, Donnie, dig a 48-inch hole next to the building at 10-foot centers and put some kind vines that just grow up the whole thing. It becomes a green building that is vital and gives its way to nature. And there's all kinds of vines that do that. I don't want to get in other board members' places, but there's a really cool vine called Parthenosis quinquefolia. This is one that is maybe you see this, but there's all kinds of vines like Virginia creeper and others that just give wonderful colors seasonally. So call me the vine junkie, not a certified landscape architect, but vines can do wonders for the building. That's my comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hedgepeth. Board Member Kortenbrock.
Sure. I think most of my comments have already kind of been brought up. Thanks for the Vine shout out, Warren. Love it. One thing that might be an alternative to the Vine is I was looking at those long kind of site sections on A5, I guess A5 and A6, more A5, just kind of talking about where Henry was kind of talking about the carport's relationship to the storage. There's a narrow planter strip there, and I was kind of thinking if there's an opportunity to provide something that's even taller or more upright in those planter strips, so that way the second story may not be, well, I guess second and third story units aren't looking out over the storage facility and the rooftops and things like that. So maybe there's something there for something that's much more upright and evergreen that can get taller than that storage building. Might provide some relief for the second and third story residents. But yeah, I love the idea of the vines. It's going to be a maintenance kind of question to that. And then I liked the comments so far just about the elevations somehow enhancing them on the storage facilities. And then also on the housing as well. I didn't know if there's a way to kind of make, especially on the west elevation of building 1, like at Santa Rosa Avenue, if there's an opportunity to maybe break up the symmetry. The other board members may be able to speak to that better than I can, but that was one thing in kind of looking at it is just kind of these opening, kind of two, mirror images. And so maybe there's something that can be done either from the color or from how the building kind of meets the ground in terms of the windows and kind of coverings around the windows, things like that may help kind of activate those elevations a little bit more, provide some difference. But I do like the palette and the materiality and things like that. It kind of when I first saw this, I immediately thought of some of the I think we had maybe like a few months ago, we had, was it like the Motel 6 that's on Santa Rosa Avenue? And they were doing a little bit of a refresh on it. And the project kind of reminded me a little bit of those, I guess, kind of the vernacular along Santa Rosa Avenue, just the kind of drive-in, auto-oriented kind of uses of the past that are still kind of hip and cool nowadays. But yeah, I really like the courtyard ideas, and I like how they're internal. I think that's something we want to make this much more livable for folks. Let's see, and then the public comment or about Santa Rosa Avenue, and I'm sure this, traffic will look at this, but especially with this kind of use, kind of at that corner, at that intersection, there is not or at least in the drawing set, there's not an existing crossing on the south side of that intersection, and so if that's something that maybe staff can kind of ask about, or the applicant can ask about in terms of creating that connection, a striped crosswalk to kind of help alleviate some of the concerns about that intersection. I'm sure with the new kind of overcrossing, there will be some type of light there eventually, but I definitely get it as you kind of work your way down Santa Rosa Avenue. It's more lights, probably better. Let's So I think that's it for my comments. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Board Member Cordenbrock. Board Member Sharon.
Thank you. And I won't belabor a lot of the topics that have been covered by my fellow board members. Some really great comments. Just a few thoughts though. Yeah, this when I first was looking at this and then diving in deeper, it was a really interesting project, and it got me kind of existentially thinking about combining residence and commercial and the opportunities and constraints about that. And I think that the very interesting use of the space, and I commend you for wanting to shoehorn all this in here. I think it's well done, and is maximizing a lot of what can be done on an interesting shaped and sized lot. One of the things that I really kept thinking about is you could go two ways with it. If you're having the residential with the commercial, you could make them be completely opposite and really distinct from each other, so you don't feel that they are necessarily related. A business and a home area, or you could have them really complement each other and to be a holistic site, so that when you're arriving home, say, that you actually feel like you're coming to this whole site is yours and your community. And I do think that the courtyards really succeed with that. And Don, you mentioned the pedestrian emphasis. I think that's very well done, and you've created really nice, very nice arbored site. Lots of good placement of trees, and it does feel softer than a lot of the road. This particular section of Santa Rosa Ave is very, as Brett was just mentioning, is pretty fast and loud, and it's sandwiched right there between the highway. And so I think any softening that you can actually do is beneficial. And I think that goes to some of what Henry and Warren were talking about with trying to break up some of the materiality and the long swaths of stucco that we've got there. One of the things I did want to reemphasize was that I feel like that the east elevation of Building 3 feels just, like a bit of a lost opportunity at this point, that really could be made more striking and tied in with the nice plantings that are going to be in front there. Yeah, I think that overall with the materials that you've chosen, both on the mini storage and on the buildings, I think that you've done a good job with having of those two options of having the complementary side of things. And so that this actually does feel like a full site and a full home. And I think anything you can do to continue with that will be a benefit to the project. And I think that we will be excited about that when we see it again in the future. Yeah, again, thanks for wanting to bring housing to this section of Santa Rosa Ave, and very interesting use of space, and good luck with this project and with your other projects. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Board Member Sharon. So I would echo the comments that have been made by my fellow board members so far this evening. What I like about the project are many of the things that have been highlighted. Just wanted to call attention to a couple of other items. One is I really appreciate, albeit the two entrances end up being closer together. On the north entrance, I appreciate it being closer to the apartment complex, and that you have to purposefully find your way to the self-storage area. It gives it a good separation, I think, of the two uses, even though that might provide more traffic flow at the apartment complex. It's not necessarily for the apartment complex. It's pretty brief interaction. So I hope that that can stay locked in where it's at. For me, the self-storage architecture is a little bit too far of a, I know we were talking about you could go complementary or complete opposites. It's almost, for me, too far of a complete opposite as it currently stands. And I think one of the things that brings that out for me in my mind is the east elevation at the north, which is the actual storefront elevation where Santa Rosa storage. The actual pitch of the roof seems to be kind of excessive to me, which then in turn, when you look at the south elevation, you get that big forehead of corrugated siding. So I think that that could be softened a little bit and maybe even bring up the furthest corner, the elevation there, bring it up to 15 feet so that it completely hides that little corner element of the self-storage facility. And then I think it's skewed a little bit on that east elevation where you return back and you have that stucco wall of the self-storage. It doesn't look like it's that big of a element in the east elevation, but it actually is probably almost equal to that full storefront elevation if you look at the plan layout, the site plan layout. So I'm wondering if you, instead of doing stucco there, maybe you wrap that with the metal siding so that, it does away with kind of some of what we've been talking about, which is an extensive amount of stucco. And then, if you do soften the roof pitches a little bit, I would just kind of go around and do that elsewhere. It just kind of brings it more in line, but not totally like the flat roofs at the apartment complex. And otherwise, very supportive of the project. I think you've got a good team in place, which is clearly important in all of these projects. It's been said, I think Don McNair, even at a first blush, has done a good job of really bringing the elements of that apartment project together. And if that can be kind of a little bit more replicated in detail on the self-storage where it can be, as comments you've heard, it's going to be that much better of a project. So I think with that, that would conclude my comments. I'm going to look back to my board members to see if anything that's been discussed brought up any other ideas, thoughts, questions for the applicant while we've got them here. Anybody?
Yeah, real quick.
Go ahead.
Strike my comments about the trellising on the storage unit between the canopies, car covering canopies, which, to Warren's point, is a good opportunity to be PV holders, like that way that's phrased and put together. I think the planting is the right course for that and getting it to be a green wall. And if there's truly a property line there, it's most likely going to have to be a rated wall. So the CMU option, not sure what the mini storage unit construction type is going to be like, but if it is CMU, get one of those vine types that I know nothing about and get it growing up on those walls and make it be very green and lush, Don. So that's just something I wanted to. On these concept ones, we try to give good direction for our colleagues to come back to us with something improved, and I just didn't want those trellis elements. I think on the 101 side, there's some trellis stuff, and I just didn't want that to be conjured as something they should focus on trying to come back to us with a design evolution. So.
Thank you, Annie. I wanted to mention one thing. I really liked Elder Cordenbrock's thoughts about in the distant past, in the fabulous 30s, 40s, 50s, Santa Rosa Avenue used to have Tropicana, all kinds of things. It was full of, since you're a car guy, Henry, Studebakers, and all kinds of people with flashy turquoise cars going up and down the avenue. And it had the palm tree world. And what's fascinating about the color green and life, more than just a cheese wedge shape on the storage building, if you had a vertical green wall that stuck out like a fin, let's go back, this is 40s, 50s talk, but this kind of a wonderful thing where the signage, maybe it's a whole wall of creeping fig, but the thing is 20 feet tall, and it's kind of a pike out there of green, and that's cubic, kind of like Randy's project. I just love the idea of the plants taking over and basically controlling the blight. And so I guess, Scott, to the point of giving license to the applicant to play with plants, to play with walls that have to be CMU anyway. If you got CMU going, you could have a very wonderful, significant wall, maybe even has portals in it or something. But when you drive up and down the avenue, you see things at a 90 degree. You don't see signage the other way. But the license of having that kind of spectacular thing greet you south and north, and if Don wanted to have a different species of plant on each side to confuse or delight people, whatever. But that's a wide open, happy thing for me to see.
Okay, I know that we want to check in with the applicant team. Anything further from the board at this point? So does the applicant team want to expand on anything that they've heard, or raise questions as to direction that they've heard?
Hi, you guys, Don here. Thank you for those great comments. I appreciated every single one of them. One of the things we have to pay attention to now, particularly in the city of Santa Rosa, is when you have 3-story buildings, the fire department's getting pretty finicky about the size of trees that can go between their access and the building. So, for instance, a project I was working on Steel Lane, we were limited to 15-foot tall trees. So in anticipation of that, that's one reason I chose the crepe myrtle kind of around the perimeter as I did. If there's places where I can do something taller, skinnier, I will certainly attempt to do that. But, like I said, it kind of took us by surprise when we couldn't put trees next to some of the buildings that we were working on. And in regard to vines, yeah, I agree completely. There's lots of different vines out there that can be used. There's products out there that will allow us to not necessarily attach a vine to a building, but put it offset from the building slightly. Green screen is what I'm thinking of in particular. And they can go quite tall. They can go up a long ways with those. So I think, assuming my client is willing to look at things like that, I think it's certainly a viable option in this case. And that was it. That was my response.
Great. Thank you for those comments, Don. Much appreciated. There's lots of competing interests as we find on these projects.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the continued education from the Santa Rosa Fire Department's standpoint. Any other members of the applicant team need any clarification on what they've heard?
This is Will Marks again. Thank you first for all your comments. Obviously very helpful, and we'll go back to the drawing board, so to speak. I just want to be clear actually on the idea of the two different projects working together, being as one or not being as one. It sounded like the consensus was you would like them to blend together. in many ways. Is that correct, or is that too simplistic?
I think that I think board member Sharon had brought that up. Is that right? Is that right, Adam? Yeah. And I kind of I just like the comment. You know, I think it's something to consider, either if you're moving ahead, you know, play around with it. If it's something completely different, and you know, that might be better for the residents, or to really differentiate themselves from kind of what's going on behind them. I don't know the answer, but I just like the idea. I like the comment from Adam.
Yeah, for me, it was, as I mentioned, it was something I had kind of wrestled with in just thinking about it, because there are lots of different ways to go. I think I feel like, you know, purposefully or not, you've definitely explored it in what you were proposing, just by, you know, the interesting choice of the corrugated metal. I think for the residence area is an interesting choice. It's not something we necessarily see all the time. And so it made it a unique project to think about. And I think that you can explore it more. For me, I don't come down on one side or the other. When I've been thinking about it, I've gone both ways. And I would encourage you to think about it more and be bold about it, and make whatever move you're going to make intentionally, and sell us on it. I think I could be convinced either way. That probably doesn't help you very much, but good luck. Thank you. Thanks for bringing up the discussion. It actually was a very fruitful and interesting thing to think about. I appreciate it.
All right, I think that's all from me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And this is Katie Elmore, and I just wanted to thank you for all your comments. I was especially interested in your comments about the Santa Rosa Avenue elevation on Building 3. Yeah, we will definitely take that into account in terms of breaking up that elevation, because we had tried to do these recesses so that we do have like kind of a rhythm, and the columns coming out, and then the balconies as well. And yeah, I guess it's just needs a little bit more articulation is what I'm hearing. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, well, as you've heard, we really appreciate you bringing this concept before us, and hope that we get to see it again soon. And we'll keep the project moving forward. So have a great evening. All right, well, that brings us to the last item on our agenda. But before we get there, I want to make sure we check in with board members or staff, or is there anything else that we need to discuss for the good of the cause while we're all live and streaming and being broadcast?
Nothing further from staff. Thank you, Chair Kincaid.
Great. Well, we'll see each other all again on Monday evening. And so for those who can't make it, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. Take some time to give some thanks and take a little breather from everything that's going on. So thanks for everyone joining us tonight, and appreciate staff. As you always do, you scramble through these technical difficulties and get us back online. So much appreciated. I know it can be stressful, and hope you don't take it personally. It's just darn communication channels. So have a great evening. We'll see you next week. We're adjourned.
Great. Nice seeing everyone. Take care.
It's 5 o'clock.